want to play you a little of what Chris Minns said. This was on the Eraring Power Station. I'll play a little of it to you and get your thoughts on the future of Eraring and what the New South Wales government's up to on this. Have a look.
Our priority right now is keeping the lights on and keeping power prices as low as possible. We'll keep everything on the table to ensure that consumers aren't having to face massive increases in power prices. I know that there's some consternation about Eraring, particularly from renewable energy advocates. I just make the point that nothing will extinguish community and popular support for this energy transition than a massive power price spike.
Chris Bowen, there's Chris Minns, and it sounds to me like they're increasingly likely to do a deal with Origin and keep Eraring open for longer. Would that take a bit of the pressure off?
Well, no secrets there, Kieran. It's been well established that the New South Wales government was in discussions with Origin about the closure date of Eraring. That's as it should be. Governments, and in this case state governments, manage the exit of coal-fired power stations. Sometimes they're brought forward, sometimes they're delayed. When you're managing a big transition, that's quite appropriate. So the Minns government is acting appropriately there. My position is same as Penny Sharp's. I don't want to see the Eraring Power Station open for a day longer than it needs to be. I don't want to see it shut a day earlier than it should to ensure a managed transition towards 82% renewables. I'm very confident the Minns government will pull that off and they'll get the right balance.
It's a big part of the energy grid in New South Wales, 20 to 25%. Last year, I think it was, from memory, 22%. It's a big part, a big chunk of the New South Wales energy grid. Given this report out of AEMO hasn't factored in an extension of Eraring, that would take a bit of pressure off more broadly, wouldn't it?
Well, it's no secret, as I said, that looking at that period around 2025, is it exactly the right time for Eraring to close is something the New South Wales government has considered and been talking to us. Not that we are involved in the negotiations, but also to Origin Energy. That's quite appropriate. I make this point about the statement of opportunities. There's lots of assumptions made, Kieran. That's quite prudent. For example, with the 4.2 gigawatts of new energy coming on, they've assumed 6-month delays. Now, many of those projects are not delayed and will not be delayed, but AEMO has quite appropriately factored in, well, what would happen if there's delay in the project in South Australia or the Kurri Kurri project in New South Wales. Now, the Kurri Kurri project in New South Wales is on time, but it's not unreasonable for AEMO to say, well, let's just think about what happens if it's 6 months late and what we need to do to manage that. It's not running 6 months late, it is running on time, but I have no problem with AEMO just putting in an assumption that it's running 6 months late, because sometimes, you know, as you're waiting on the last parts, or things can go wrong at the last minute. With a big project like that, there are sometimes delays, and it's appropriate to factor some in.
Indeed, it is, and it's a big news day. Just before you go, I want to ask you for your thoughts on this. Quite a big decision by the International Criminal Court, issuing indictments, arrest warrants for 3 of the Hamas terrorists and the Israeli Prime Minister and Defence Minister. The US President said it was outrageous. There's no moral equivalence. What's your read on it?
Well, I respect the International Criminal Court and I respect the work they do. And international law must be respected. International law, of course, was not respected by Hamas. Israel must respect international law. So I heard when I was waiting for this interview Peter Dutton's comments, which I thought were in and of themselves highly irresponsible by Peter Dutton to drag this through a domestic political debate. We respect the work of the International Criminal Court. International law must always be observed, and nobody gets a free pass from that.
Do you think it's inappropriate, though, to suggest a moral equivalence, though, between, say, the terrorist group Hamas and the Israeli leadership?
I think it's appropriate to respect the work of the International Criminal Court, which is what the Prime Minister has said, and I'm pretty surprised that Peter Dutton does not. Or perhaps I'm not surprised, but it clearly doesn't.
Minister Chris Bowen, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.